Captain's log, stardate 5466.9. The Enterprise is in orbit around the outpost colony world of Ribble 2, on orders from the Federation Agricultural Division to try and find a solution to the destructive plague of Dranzes, which wipes out 70 to 90% of the grain crop every 6th year. A landing party of Dr. McCoy, First Officer Spock, and myself has beamed down to the Ribolian surface to survey the problem firsthand. Mr. Newt Henderson of the Ribolian Settlers League has taken us in hand. Mr. Henderson, you realize that none of us has ever seen a Dranzer.
So, if you knew Dranzers, Captain Kirk, you wouldn't wonder why we're making this little trip by air instead of on land.
I confess that I am surprised at the lack of information on such a dangerous creature, Mr. Henderson. Starfleet records are of little help.
Let's see if I can fill you in then, Mr. Spock, wasn't it? A Dranzer looks like a cross between a pig and a buffalo. They have long black hair, flat quadruple horns, an ugly disposition, and are about half the size of an earthly elephant.
So it's their size which makes them a threat to you.
Yeah, and the fact that they breed like rabbits. When this world was first settled 12 years ago, they weren't considered a danger. They stayed in the hilly grasslands on the western part of this continent. We grow our grain in the central and eastern plains regions. Everything was fine until 6 years ago. We noticed then that the Dranzers were so thick they nearly walked on each other. But we had no reason to suspect they would
Come down onto the plains and trample your fields.
just so. We don't know why. Too many Dranzers, too little food maybe, but they panicked. Came down out of the hills like a black avalanche and ruined the whole crop for that year. Nearly ruined the colony. But we hung on, replanted, and have done well since then. Except
It's 6 more years and the Dranzer population is up again, and you expect another continent-wide stampede.
yeah. Ah, there they are. Now, you'll see what I mean. I'll cut our engine and we'll glide in over them. Otherwise, the noise is liable to start the stampede.
Break my nerve. They're like locusts.
There must be thousands of them.
Millions, Captain.
I'm going to have to pull us out of here, gentlemen. Our shadow is making them nervous.
Never mind. I think we've seen enough to give us some idea of the size of your problem, Mr. Henderson.
What do you suggest we do? We have been petitioning Starfleet for help for years.
What about simply reducing the herds through selective pruning?
No. We tried that 3 years ago when the herds first began to grow too big again. For one thing, it started a premature stampede which ruined several thousand square kilometers of maturing foothill cropland. As you might guess, the farmers in that area won't permit the repetition of that disaster. But there's another more important reason.
Which is?
There's a high grass which germinates in the hills. It would take over the plains, except that the Dranzer herds keep it cut back. If we were to kill off the Dranzers, our agriculture experts tell us that in a decade, the grass would take over every meter of arable land on the continent. We have to find some way of controlling the Dranzers without letting the grass get out of control. But if we leave the natural cycle alone, the racial stampede will occur within a half year, and we'll lose another entire year's crop.
Mr. Spock, reactions.
At first glance, the problem would appear insoluble, Captain.
That's not what we pay taxes to here, Mr. Spock.
I fear that government is rarely run according to scientific principles, Mr. Henderson. But we must do something.
I hope so, Mr. Spock, Captain Kirk. I sincerely hope so.
You said the full stampede was expected within 6 months.
It could happen tomorrow, too. Or next week, according to the biostatisticians. The herds are already at critical size.
That does not give us much time to theorize prospective solutions.
That's not our fault. We have been trying to get some action out of Starfleet for years.
Starfleet has many concerns, sir. We'll do the best we can for you.
Captain Kirk, we've got several 100,000 kilometers of ripe food grains just about ready for harvesting, and they could be trampled into compost any day now. If it is, you'd better believe your superiors are going to hear of it.
Old-fashioned doorways, they still have here.
And if Henderson is typical of the Ribolian settlers, the people are pretty old-fashioned themselves. Such folk don't take catastrophe quietly. He's right. They can make trouble for us with headquarters.
Well, what do they expect from us, Bones? We're not responsible for the ecological setup on this world. The Dranzer Stampede never bothered anyone until the colony here expanded to bring 2/3 of this continent under intensive cultivation.
True, Captain. Bear in mind that the Dranzers do not vote. I have, however, thought of a possible solution, which will only bend and not tear the natural fabric of this planet.
Well?
It involves a considerable risk on the part of those involved, Captain.
Wait a minute, Spock. If this is something you regard as a considerable risk, I'm not sure I want any part of it.
I'm afraid that your knowledge of organic chemistry is required, Doctor. But first, we must capture a large Dranzer, the largest Dranzer we can.
Capture one? What on Ribble for?
The explanation derives logically, Doctor.
You wanted to see me, Captain Kirk?
Yes, Henderson. Spock and Dr. McCoy beamed up to the Enterprise and have been working around the clock on your problem. They think they've come up with a solution. First, we need a number of those high-speed ground vehicles your people use.
Wait a minute now. We asked for Federation aid. Why should we have to supply...
You want us to stop this stampede or not?
All right. If that's what you need, you'll have them. But by heaven, those ground cars are specially built for high-speed travel on Ribellian terrain. If you get them banged up...
Take it easy, Henderson. We'll take care of your precious vehicles.
And now, I'd like to hear this miracle your people have produced.
They should be beaming down any minute now. I'll let them tell you about it in person.
Here it is, Jim.
That's all? That one little tank? It can't hold more than a couple of liters of what's in it anyway?
1.8 liters, to be precise. But that will be sufficient.
You mean you're going to stop the stampede of several million Dranzers with this?
Not stop, Mr. Henderson. Divert.
Divert? Assuming that this little pop bottle of whatever it is can do anything, where do you propose to divert the herds to? And keep them diverted? They've been stampeding, according to the best evidence, in the same paths across the continent for millions of years.
All will become clear, sir. Captain, have we the properly equipped vehicles?
Standing by, Spock, with local drivers. When I explained what we were going to do, most of our would-be volunteers quietly disappeared. The drivers we have left are brave people.
Excellent. Then all that is left is to transfer a portion of the liquid in this container into the equipment on each vehicle. Then...
Come in.
Just got this from the Deloutre family ranch in the northwest quadrant. One of their outposters for scouting up in the hills.
Thanks, Ellie.
Well, what does it say?
We're too late. You're too late. I should have known not to rely on Starfleet again. The stampede's already begun.
Then we have no time to waste, gentlemen. Captain, Dr. McCoy, you will each command one set of vehicles. Mr. Henderson, how much time have we before the herd leaders reach the first grain fields? In case we fail, these areas should stand by to evacuate.
Wait a minute. You don't propose to try something now. You can't expect to stop several million animals already in full stampede.
I said divert. Remember, not stop. Captain, Dr. McCoy, are we ready?
I hope you know what you're doing, Spock. If this doesn't work, they're going to have to scrape us off the ground.
If it doesn't work, a lot of people here will be ruined, Doctor, and many elsewhere will go hungry. It must work. Besides, the percentages are in our favor. They are...
Never mind. I don't want to hear. I might want to back out.
Of course, everything depends on your accurate synthesis of the necessary liquid.
Thanks, Spock.
I hope your Mr. Spock knows what he's doing, Captain.
He usually does, Henderson.
He'd better this time. There's no way out for us, you know. We can't go right or left to escape the herds. If this doesn't work, we've had it. Look back there, out the rear window. See that dust cloud?
Looks like a storm coming towards us.
In a way, it is. There must be 100 million animals in full stampede along a 2,000-kilometer-long front, and they average about 2 tons apiece. Do you know what they'll do to this vehicle and us if they overtake us? There won't be enough left of us to burn.
Captain.
Here, Spock. Ready at Station 1.
Very good, Captain. I'm approximately 600 kilometers due north of your position. Dr. McCoy's group is a similar distance north of mine. Can you see the herd?
We can see the dust cloud they're raising.
Good. On my signal, you will activate the sealed tanks on your vehicles and start along the charted course.
Check, Mr. Spock.
Dr. McCoy?
I heard, Spock. We're all set at this end. Jim?
I'm here, Bones.
this idea of Spock fails, I want his corpse court-martialed.
Appropriate action will be taken, Bones.
How long is he going to wait?
Until he's sure the timing is right.
Timing! Look behind us again. The dust is beginning to blot out the sun. Pretty soon we'll see the front wall of the herd. Do you know how far and how fast a Dranzer can run, Captain? If we run out of fuel, or have a mechanical problem, or this crazy idea doesn't work, we've no place to run.
Relax, Henderson. Spock knows what he's doing. I hope.
I can make out individual animals now. They'll be on us in another few minutes. Here, you, Commander Spock. What's going on? What are you waiting for?
The correct moment, Mr. Henderson.
Correct moment! Look, in another couple of minutes, we're all going to be a smear on the landscape. If you don't...
Very well. Captain, Dr. McCoy, you may open the valves on your tanks.
Deck, Spock.
You can smell it even in here. What's in that canister anyway?
Spock discovered that Dranzers have very poor eyesight. The herd leaders produce a musky odor which the others follow. He had Dr. McCoy mix up a batch of synthetic Dranzer musk, only concentrated several 100,000 times. To the animals leading the herd, we must smell like the most authoritative Dranzer that ever lived. The same smell is being released by Mr. Spock's and Dr. McCoy's group of vehicles along the whole front of the herd. You have our course plotted?
Yes, yes.
Then let's get moving.
With pleasure.
Captain,
It's working, Spock. They're turning slightly. Yes, they're following us.
here also, Captain.
And up here. Good work, Spock.
We are not secure yet, gentlemen.
Captain, we can't keep this up forever. We've been running at this speed for nearly a whole day. Even with the extra fuel tanks I had installed, we can't continue at this speed much longer. We've covered so much territory already in this dust that... Hey, what's that up ahead?
Henderson, leave that wheel alone. What are you doing?
Don't you see? We're headed right into them again. They're behind us too. We're trapped. Don't you see? We're trapped.
Get a hold of yourself, Henderson. That's not another herd. That's the back end of the herd following us.
Back in? Following us?
Captain, all vehicles stand by to execute final maneuver.
Ready, Spock.
Ready.
I don't understand, Captain.
Look behind us now.
It's the herd, but they're passing behind us. They're not following anymore.
That's right, Henderson. Spock knew we couldn't kill the Dranzers off, so the stampede had to take place. But nothing said it had to follow the same old paths. Check our course. See, we've led the herds in a full circle. Our scent tanks are empty, and now the animals in the front of the herd are following the scent of those at the back of the same herd. They should keep running in a circle like a dog chasing its own tail until they run themselves out. The threat to your crops is over. And next year, the normal number of surviving Dranzers will keep the high grass from growing down into the plains.
Control Group 3 to Group 2. Group 3 calling Group 2.
Group 2 here. Is that you, Landowner Henderson?
Mr. Spock, please accept my personal apology, along with the thanks of every farmer on Ribo 2. You've solved our problem, now and for the future.
You're welcome, Mr. Henderson. But there is a penalty.
Penalty?
One cannot alter nature without reaping consequences. The millions of dead Dranzers which used to scatter across the great plains of this continent will not lie in your fields this year. Their bodies used to fertilize the ground. Now, you must move the corpses to your fields or import artificial fertilizers if you expect your fields to keep producing good grain in the future.
But, Mr. Spock, that means moving 100 million Dranzer bodies.
A considerable task. Group 2 out.
200 million tons. Captain, do you think that Starfleet would...
I'm sorry. Starfleet has saved your crops for you, but even Starfleet can only do so much. You're going to have to learn to help yourselves a little, too. Now, I suggest you get in touch with the rest of your neighbors and fellow farmers. The sooner you begin moving those bodies behind us, the better. Because if all those bodies begin to decompose in one place, and if the wind changes, you're going to have a very good grain crop, but an awfully smelly year.